Hey, greetings everybody. This is Thunder Hands, the Native American Taoist at thenativeamericantaoist.com. Well, today I want to talk about a sinking ship. I think that's what I'm going to name this one because it feels like that's what we're on, a sinking ship. And I think about great ships like the Titanic, how they thought it was unsinkable. But there were a lot of factors that came into view later on. And, you know, it's a great metaphor when you think about it, as far as civilizations or society or anything that's going down or that will stay afloat. So I was thinking about all of this because I have been also looking into some videos and stuff on the Titanic, and I remember it as a kid too, the stories from my father about it, because he was born in 1910, so he at least had not first-hand knowledge but handed down knowledge. You know, on the Titanic, the thing that caused it to go down was really, the bottom line on it was arrogance. And I don't know, a sense of competitive spirit, or a sense of we're going to be better than the rest of the ocean liners, or we have something to prove, or because it was about speed, really. It was about how fast the vessel was going, and the captain was in direct control of that, so it's really important as to who the captain of the ship is. And also the captain takes orders from other people above him or with the corporation. Now, isn't that just exactly like what we are faced with government and with the leaders that we have today, the captains, so to speak, the captains of the ship. And then they have the crew, which basically falls in line. But then there's the passengers, okay, and the passengers are the ones that are going to feel the effects of whatever this captain does or whatever the crew members do. And we're feeling the effects. People are feeling the effects today from all the leaders of all the nations, and it just depends on whether they are reckless or whether they're, thinking coherently and thinking about the people first and their own reputations, their own self-interests second. Now, it's evident as to what's happening here because, there are so many similarities between a sinking ship and a sinking state. or a sinking government or a sinking country or a sinking civilization. Now, on a sinking ship, they might try to make people feel better by saying, oh, don't worry, it's all covered. We have all the drills. We have the lifeboat drills. Of course, they don't tell you there's not enough lifeboats to go around, just like on the Titanic. And they don't tell you that only a certain few people will survive. And they don't tell you that your chances are slim or none if there's some kind of catastrophe that comes down. So these are things to think about, as a metaphor for what's going on today. And there's a lot of things they don't tell you, like I said before. They try to manipulate you into thinking better thoughts. Take, for instance, on the Titanic, it was advertised as the unsinkable ship, the ship of the century, the ship of all time, unsinkable. Wrong. It hit an iceberg and sank real quick. And that's what they would like us to think, that this country, this state, this whatever, this system that we live in is unsinkable. Don't worry about it. Nothing will ever happen. We got it all under control. They don't. Because they get full of themselves. They get full of they start believing their own illusions about how unsinkable things are. And they like to try to gauge reactions of people too. That's something else I want to touch on. And I'm not sure how that fits into the metaphor, but it's something that should be mentioned anyway. And recently there has been all kinds of different things happening. Now, I don't know if these things are connected. Okay? But one thing you have to be sure, if you're on a ship, or before you go on that ship, or as you're on that ship, you have to be sure there's enough lifeboats. You have to be sure there's enough. You have to be sure of the competency of the crew. You have to be sure of the competency of the cruise lines. This is something you should check into before you even get on. Unfortunately, most of us are already on, not by our own choosing. So the only thing that we can do is try to keep a clear head about things and try to investigate and to see what options we have. But getting back to these incidents that I wanted to talk about, they will test people to see what kind of reaction they can get out of people, or how people are going to react under certain situations. And the reason they do this is because they're trying to gauge what their response will be. And I noticed several things happening lately, like I think the day before yesterday, people that were on food stamps that have this EBT card, all of a sudden that card, and I've been telling people this for a long time, so maybe, some people will start listening. It's just going to take one event to put people in mass panic and to flip out, and all of a sudden civil unrest, boom. I've been telling people, I've been beating this drum just like at the beginning of the musical intro to the show, which I'm playing on, by the way, in case people didn't know that. I've been beating this drum about massive civil unrest. And so when these EBT cards, or these food stamp cards that are like a credit card, when they went down for a day, guess what happened? Well, the people started panicking. I mean, wouldn't you? I mean, if you're reliant on anything like Social Security or an EBT card or food stamps or even unemployment, okay, then when that is cut off, that's your survival, okay? So when people are at the food store and they got their baskets full of food and they go up and they say, "Oh, that card isn't working or it's no good." This is the people's survival. This is their food. This is what they live on. Now, if you watch Twitter, which I do sometimes, you see some of the comments, like when this was happening, people were getting ready to revolt. I mean, one day, people were saying all kinds of things like, "I'll kill if I have to," and, you know, to protect my family. And it's like, hello, wake up. This is something you should have thought about a long time ago. And there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, these people are on the system and they're sucking off the tit of the government and that's the problem." No, that's not the problem. It's real easy to blame the people. You got to look at the leadership, okay? Because some people might say that and they might be out collecting, they might have just lost their job and they're collecting unemployment. Well, what if that went down, brother? I don't want to hear this stuff about, "Oh, these people are," the reason that people rely is because they've been lulled into it by the government. So the government is at fault in the first place. So I don't want to hear about any of this stuff about all these people that are on welfare system and they're the ones that are dragging. No, they're not the ones that are dragging us down, because everybody depends on a form of government somehow. And this is what they have planned all along, that you become dependent on them. And people bought into it. But they're tricky, so I don't blame the people for buying into it. And besides, like on Social Security, you pay into it. Isn't that yours? That's what they have led you to believe, but that's an illusion. So it's not the people's fault. It's the clowns up there, the captains of the ship, that have orchestrated this whole social structure and have gotten the countries massively in debt because of their own greed and their own wars and that type of thing. Think about it. If there wasn't any war, if there wasn't all the stuff they spend money on, needless money, there would be plenty to go around, food stamps or not. There would be plenty of prosperity for everybody. Everybody would be taken care of if there was proper management and a proper captain at the helm with his proper crew. Because if the captain's not together, and if the corporations that are running that captain have an agenda, well then guess what, people? You're in for a shitstorm, okay? And that's what's brewing right now. And all this stuff about, the budget and the debt ceiling and the government shutting down and austerity measures are taking place in the EU and in Greece and UK and all this, and people are suffering big time. You think that's not going to happen here? So they test people. Let me get back to this thing about testing people. When those EBT cards, I know I get off on a tangent, but I follow. It all makes sense in the long run. Bear with me. So when the EBT cards went down, that was a test. You think that was an accident? Seriously. Oh, we had a glitch and Xerox this and blah, 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 and the computer's this and that. And you know what? That same day, people on Social Security, a few I know couldn't get on their website for about maybe 20 minutes, 45 minutes. So if you put all this stuff together and then think back about what happened when they had that bombing at the Boston Marathon and they went in and they moved in and they declared martial law, okay, and they shut down everything, and I think Boston lost something like $23 billion that day, and they were beating doors in, and I've been over this before. That was a test too. You think, these people think we're stupid or something. Let's gauge what the public reaction will be so that we can prepare for whatever that reaction will be. So if people, I heard there were fights breaking out at Walmart and all kinds of things over this food stamp issue. Well, only goes to figure. If you can't get your food, you're going to get hot. You're going to get the first thing you're going to do if you're not in control and you're not in realization of this stuff ahead of time. That's why I talk about survival, and that's why as a tracker I say you have to learn how to survive. You have to plan ahead, Just like if you're on a ship, you better have alternative plans other than depending on the crew and the captain, okay? Or better be prepared for the worst, and if that means, drowning or no longer existing, well then at least you're prepared for whatever's coming down. It's a gamble. Life's a gamble, let's face it. You never know what's going to happen, personally or on the world stage. But I think that these are things that should be talked about because, and that's the only reason I do this. Because the mainstream media in most countries, and I'm not familiar with other countries, I'm familiar with this country, they're liars. They dwell on sensationalistic stuff, trite things that have no meaning at all. They cover up all the real stories that are earth-shakingly important, okay? So other people have to take the helm of truth. People like myself and other people that are on YouTube and people that are just normal people but have the capability, maybe they're not so normal, maybe they have the capability to see where others don't see. You know? Maybe you could liken it to that person that's way up in the crow's nest with the binoculars on a ship looking ahead and seeing things that other people can't see and reporting them and maybe not even being listened to. Okay? Now, some people might say, oh, you're wrong. We'll get through this. It's just another glitch in life. And denial is what that is. You have to look at earmarks, okay? You have to look at earmarks around you. You have to look at signs. I'm going to give you a lesson in a word lesson today. I learned a couple of words. Well, I didn't learn them. I've heard them before, kind of knew what they meant. One of them is kleptocracy, spelled Kleptocracy, kleptocracy. And that means gain at the expense of others, kleptocracy. And then you have hegemony, 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 kleptocracy and hegemony. And hegemony means domination over others. So we have both of these two things happening right now, kleptocracy and hegemony. Which basically amounts to some greedy people at the helm of the ship or steering the ship. So what you want to do is when you get on a ship, you better have your own little life raft. There's a metaphor. Have your own little life raft. Be your own captain. Okay, don't depend on other captains wherever you go. See, this is the real answer. Is be your own captain. That means being a free spirit, having your own life raft, which means knowing how to survive under all circumstances, knowing how to get along. How hard is it to have a little lifeboat or a little folded up that you could cling to? How about a radio? Okay, so those are a metaphor for what do you have prepared? What have you prepared for in your life if everything goes down? Wake up. And it's people like me, the people in the crow's nest up there that see things, and other people that are doing the same thing, that are replacing the mainstream media because they're all liars. And even if just half this stuff I'm saying is true, it's okay. And you don't have to believe a thing I'm saying. But when you look at the signs, okay, they're creating fear by doing things like shutting down food stamps, shutting this down, shutting that down, shutting the government down. Everybody's on edge. All these people in this society are on edge. They're going, what's going on here? The house of cards is coming down. The dominoes are falling. That's what's going on. Or if they're not, they're testing you to see how you will react when they do go down. Why would they test you, though? You have to ask yourself that question too. Well, why would they test me? Why would they test people unless they know something we don't? Unless they see something coming. Because you can't assume they're dumb. You can assume that they're unenlightened, but intellectually they're not dumb. And they might be psychotic, or they might be all kinds of things. I mean, we don't know. But they're probably concerned about their own self-preservation, if it hits the fan. So they're going to play out different scenarios with people, and they're going to condition people, and they're going to do it through, the movies, the media. I mean, look at what you see on some of these, and I don't even want to get into it because I don't watch TV anyway, but so think about these things because people, I've been telling you over and over and over again, and others have too, and that doesn't mean that I want you to like be all panicked out and fearful and because I'm not. I mean, sure, I get upset when I see incompetency and I get, what do they call it, righteous indignation over stupidity and over a lack of caring and empathy. And this is about the heart, okay? This is about the heart. This is about speaking from the heart, caring about your fellow man. That's the title of my book. Listen to the wind. Okay, speak from the heart. Listening to the wind means listening to things with all senses and all faculties and beyond the normal senses and tuning into your feelings so that you will know, just like a good Apache tracker would know by the signs that he sees, feels, and the power that he tunes into, okay? And then speak from your heart about it to others who may not be in tune with any of that stuff, or the truth for that matter. So it's kind of like a shaking, wake up, instead of a gentle shaking, a gentle, only I'm not getting so gentle anymore. I'm like beating a drum now. You can't just plod along in life and think that, it's going to get better. It always gets better. Well, you can think that. But what about when those people went to get their food with the EBT cards? Oh, it was just a glitch. Well, see that, even if that wasn't a test, but I'm thinking it was, because that's the way they work. If that wasn't a test, it was a sign for you to get your act together because that's how quick it can go down. Just like when the Titanic hit that iceberg, it didn't take long for that baby to go down. And I'm sure they thought they were safe because there was a lot of rich people on that boat too. And rich people don't get on boats they don't think are safe. So anyway, I could talk about this stuff for hours just because it needs to be heard. So think about the points that I discussed here, Are you ready? I might do a show on survival. Are you hip to the fact that these people are playing you like a violin? They're playing you with these tests and these, let's try martial law, let's try cutting out the food stamps, let's try this. What are they going to try next? Are they going to create some, dirty nuke or something? Or to see how people react or cause a massive fatality in a certain city? I mean, you don't know. Who's going to trust these maniacs? So what you have to do is you have to be self-centered. And then I get back to that metaphor of like being in a hurricane. You want to stay in the calm eye of the hurricane, not in the wall. You want to observe where that wall is which that's what I'm doing right now, telling you where the wall is. It's like those hurricane hunter pilots that fly into the center of a hurricane and tell you where everything is and what's happening. You have to stay in that calm eye. You have to avoid that fringe, circular fringe of chaotic energy. So you know what that means? That means meditation. That means preparation, meditation. Okay, preparation and meditation. Be calm as a Taoist. Be a Zen calm. Okay, but be aware and be prepared. And it has to do with state of mind, because remember, they're using fear tactics. Fear tactics. And my speaking to you is not a fear tactic. It's to alert you as to what they're doing to cause fear within you, so that you can be centered and think coherently and not just freak out when something like this happens. You will be prepared. You will have survival techniques. You will be prepared spiritually. Okay? You will be ready to accept anything that happens without freaking out. I mean, if they said an asteroid was going to hit the Earth tomorrow, or Yellowstone was going to blow up and kill everybody, and then that would be acceptance of the fact that you're going to be moving on into another dimension. Now, whether it gets that extreme or not, you know, I remember that movie with Paul Newman called Hombre, where he played a half-breed Apache in white, you know, and I think he made the comment about when they were talking about death, he said something to the effect of, we're all going to die, it's just a matter of when. Okay? So, in the code of Bushido, which is Japanese in the martial arts, you accept that fact first. That's the warrior's code, the code of Bushido. You accept the fact that you're already dead. Then what's to worry about? When you go into battle and you hold up the samurai sword, you don't flinch for a second. And that's what gives you the edge, is that you've gotten rid of that fear and you're just concentrating on one thing, bringing that sword down through your enemy. You're not thinking about death. That's called the code of Bushido. B-U-S-H-I-D-O. Bushido. Like Aikido. So people, this is all I really have to say today. I just wanted to get this out there. And you know, one thing I wanted to mention about, sometimes you might look on these videos and like they have different tints to them. Like one day it'll be more reddish and the other day it'll be this or that. It's because of the lighting, and I'm constantly battling this lighting in here. Sorry. You know, it's a matter of fine-tuning everything, and you just don't get it right every time, or the light shifts around through the windows and back of you and changes actually while you're doing the broadcast. Okay, so I'm not in a professional studio here, so bear with me. Just like the glare on my glasses here. We'll figure that one out someday. I don't know. But anyway, before I go, I want to tell you about my website, The Native American Taoist, and that's spelled Taoist, the Native American Taoist.com. You should go there and check it out because it's like a network and has all kinds of goodies on there. And then it's got my two other websites, Spirit of Crazy Horse, where my books and CDs are, and the other one, which is Apache Tracking, which is about survival. And it's got little search engines on there. You can search things and come up with all kinds of stuff that I talk about. It's got a donation button, hint, hint. Just in case, you feel like the need to donate and you think that what I'm telling you is worth something, I appreciate it. That's all I can say is I would appreciate it. You know? It's another thing people got to get into is the spirit of giving. It's a bartering system, I give you knowledge, I give you wisdom, I give you news, you give me a little something. Hey, even if it's a nice comment, whatever. So anyway, go to that website and blessings to you all. And I want to say blessings to a special person today that lives in a faraway land. And that land could be Scotland. You know who you are. Blessings to you and love to you too. So I'm out of here right now, and I'm going to say adios and hasta la vista. We'll see you next Easter. Oh, that was corny. Anyway, this is Roger, over and out.